Kingdom Man exists to help Christian men become the leaders, providers, and protectors God intended them to be. We don't back down when life brings a challenge. We trust God to make a way. He points us in the right direction, and then we get to work. We take up our cross daily and find ways to serve others and share our faith while leading ourselves, our families, and our church communities. A kingdom man follows Christ while taking ownership of everything around him. He strives for success and gives God the credit for everything he accomplishes and everything he has. He is humble, strong, faithful, and continually works to grow his knowledge and capabilities so he can become the man God designed him to be. This is the Kingdom Men Podcast, the place for men where we get real about what it means to be a man of God, a follower of Christ, and a leader, provider, and protector for yourself and the people around you. I'm Jared Lawrence, your host, and welcome to the show. I'm going to start off with some scripture here. The Bible verses is Proverbs 4, verse 7 and 8. It says, "Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment. If you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her and she will honor you." Today I'm going to talk a little bit about personal development. I think God wants us to learn. I think He wants us to gain knowledge. He talks about it all through the Bible. Especially in Proverbs alone, He mentions wisdom and being wise 25 times. He puts resources all around us to help. I think whether it's books, podcasts, YouTube videos, even other people, friends, family, coworkers, just people you know. He's done that for me for sure. Today I'm going to speak on my own journey through life. Now, of course, I'm no billionaire business guy. I'm not a professional athlete or anything like that. I'm just a regular dude. But I've grown tremendously in the last 20 years of my life because I discovered the concept of personal growth. First of all, understanding that it's even possible, but understanding that it's possible for me, which was really a revelation because I'm just going to be honest with you guys, when I was a kid, I was kind of a loser. Some people might say SLM, but what I mean is I had no ambition. I had no drive to make my life any better. I'd never had very many friends. I got picked on a lot, never stood up for myself. I was overweight, out of shape. My grades in school sucked, and I didn't really care. I had zero self-esteem. I was never athletic or masculine. I really looked up to the guys who were, though. I wished I could be like them. I looked up to the guys who did well in school and who were popular and had lots of friends, but I never thought I could be like that. I was just this shy and overweight, unmotivated, friendless, hopeless kid, pretty much on a path to being a loser my whole life. I barely graduated high school, didn't go to college. I spent those first few years after high school getting caught up with kind of a bad crowd. I just wanted some friends, a group that I could fit in with, so I started hanging out with people who partied every night, got drunk, got high. So I started doing that stuff too, just trying to fit in, but in reality I was just kind of aimless. I did have a job, which for some reason was the only thing I actually tried to do well. Not really sure why. I think maybe it was because I had other people holding me accountable, my bosses there, because I certainly never held myself accountable in any other area. But just because I decided to work hard there, I was able to make my way into lower levels of management, and which came with some training. I remember they sent me to this management class once, and in the class that they told us up front, they were teaching us principles from this book, and I thought the concepts that we were learning kind of sounded interesting. The ideas of being organized and having time management and investing in yourself, and I thought, like I said, I thought it was pretty interesting. After the class, I decided to go try to see if I could find that book. I went to the library for probably the first time since I was a little kid. I found the book. I decided I read through it myself just to make sure I really understood everything, and there was so much amazing information in that book. I started having all these ideas and realizations on how I could apply these things that I was learning to my life, and then I actually did start applying those things I was learning, and I was able to see it make a difference. And it wasn't a huge difference, especially in the beginning, but I started to see this cause and effect process of learning to application to results. And that book, by the way, was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. If you've never heard of it, if you've never read it, definitely go check it out. It's amazing. It's one of the top personal development books of all time. I think it was originally written in the 80s. It's been updated and revised several times, but the principles still hold up. I've read it several times myself over the years, and I feel like I get a little bit more out of it every time. But this process of being able to get better by learning just seemed revolutionary to me, because like I said, I never did well in school. I never really had any ambition in my life. But I started to fall in love with learning because I could see how it could benefit me. I decided to go see if there were any other books out there that I could learn from. That's just kind of where I started, just going to the library. And I discovered that there's a whole personal development industry out there. There's countless books. I started reading everything I could get my hands on. I started with books on leadership and management because I felt like that would help me get better at my job. But over the years, I developed new interests. So I started looking for books on those other subjects. It was just such an eye-opening experience to realize that I could grow and that I can change. Over time, I started to understand that if I didn't like something about myself, I could change it. I wasn't a victim of my circumstances. I wasn't helpless or hopeless like I thought I was before. I learned that if I want to get better at something, I can learn, I can educate myself, and then I can apply those things that I learned to my life and actually see it make a difference. I became really big into leadership because I saw as my leadership skills grew, I was able to do better at my job because, like I said, I was in management. I was in charge of other people. And as I was able to improve my leadership skills, I eventually made my way to an upper level of management. And to be honest, that was mostly just because me being willing to work hard and just be the type of person who was reliable and really just be responsible for myself. But the higher I moved into the levels of management, I realized that with that higher level of responsibility came the need to be able to get more done through other people. And because I tell you, those first few years when I was at that level, it sucked. I was so stressed out all the time. I was constantly feeling like I was either going to get fired because I sucked at the job, or I was going to quit because I just couldn't take it anymore. I had this boss at the time who he was tough on everyone. He was the kind of guy who made everyone panic when he showed up. I would see him coming around, and I'd freak out thinking, oh no, what's he going to see now? What am I doing wrong? What have I missed? And he'd get on me. I was constantly getting yelled at, told that I wasn't performing well. I remember at one point I decided that, what? I'm going to be that kind of hard boss. I'm going to be the guy that everyone is scared of when I come around, right? I want them to feel like that about me. I thought that was the answer. And so I started trying to be that way. I started, going around snapping at people. I started verbally beating people down and constantly looking for what they were doing wrong so I could yell at them. I got to the point that I only noticed the things that they did wrong. I never noticed anything they did right. And, eventually kind of turned me into a bit of a jerk. I was cynical, and I got to where I hated going to work even more than I did before, because I just felt like all that's going to happen when I'm there is I'm going to see all this bad stuff that everybody's doing. And eventually I realized that I didn't like being that way, because I don't like being that guy. It's not who I am. It doesn't gel with my natural personality. So, I started looking for a different answer, and that was right around the time that I got into reading and started realizing that I could learn and be better, and learning more about leadership ability. And when I started learning how to be a better leader, my effectiveness skyrocketed. I was finally able to motivate people in a positive way, to get them to want to do a better job, and to train them and develop them better so that I could delegate things to them, which made my job a whole lot easier. And that was really when I started to feel like I was actually being effective in my work, in my career. And I tell you, one of the things that I've learned is that growing in leadership is a lifelong process. You never really arrive. No matter how good you are, you can always get better. Because I know I still have a lot to learn, but I'm so much better than where I used to be. And I think that kind of works the same way with your faith, too. No matter where you are in your walk with Jesus, you can always grow. You can always get closer to Him. You can always become more effective at fulfilling His calling for your life. It was around 6 years ago that I decided that I wanted to commit my life to Christ. At the time, I didn't really know what that meant. I spent most of my life as a lukewarm Christian. I'd always called myself a believer, but I never really lived for Jesus. I didn't know what it meant to be a Christ follower, but I wanted to be that. And so, I had started to develop that habit of learning and reading, and so that's where I started. I got into the Bible. I dove into Christian books, I just started trying to learn what it meant to be a Christ follower. Excuse me. But I found that the Bible has so many lessons in it about leadership and business and discipline and relationships. I mean, it's amazing. There's so much in there. And I discovered there's lots of other places to gain knowledge too, not just in books, but there's podcasts, there's online articles, YouTube videos, other people, Google. I mean, you have unlimited access to all the information of the world at your fingertips, in your pocket probably at all times on your cell phone. I mean, it's crazy. The time in history that we live in now, I mean, you just have access to so much information, and it's free. Another thing that I've learned is that you actually have to put into action what you learn. Maybe you've heard the saying that knowledge is power. I'm going to tell you that's just not true. Knowledge applied is power. Because all the education in the world won't make a difference if you don't implement what you learn. Philippians 4:9 says, "Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing, and then the God of peace will be with you." So, I mean, that concept is biblical. If all this knowledge is just floating around in your head and you're not doing anything with it, it doesn't do you or anybody else any good. Another thing I tell you is, don't beat yourself up just because you're not as far along as someone else. You have to run your race. It's really about progress and not perfection. At any given time, if you can look back 6 months or a year ago and you can see how you've gotten better, I think that's success. And you know what? If you always compare yourself to others, you're only going to be as good as they are. You need to focus on you, work on maximizing your own potential. I think one of the main lessons I want to drive home is that you're never stuck. You're never out of options. You can always change. You can always get better. You can always improve your station in life. You just have to decide to. You just have to go out there and put the effort into seeking the information, because it's not hard to find. You got to read books, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, talk to the people you know that you can learn from. I'm telling you, every person that you come across every single day, you can learn something from. And so you just have to have that habit. Just never stop learning. And no matter how much you know, no matter how good you are, you can always get better. Never get complacent, because you know what? There's no such thing as complacency. I think every day you either get better or you get worse. You have to choose to get better. We live in the greatest country in the world. You can go to the library and check out books for free. You can educate yourself. You can learn how to improve your life no matter where you're starting from. Another one of my favorite verses is Ecclesiastes 7:12. It says this, and this is the New King James Version. It says, "Wisdom is a defense as money is a defense, but the excellence of knowledge is that wisdom gives life to those who have it." I love that analogy. Wisdom is a defense as money is a defense. I think it's kind of talking about if you know enough, if you have enough knowledge, if you have enough wisdom, you can improve your life. You can protect yourself against hardships. You can use that knowledge as a defense. The same way you could use money to protect yourself from hardships and struggles if you had enough of it. And I think knowledge is more valuable than money, because if you're educated, you can always find a way to survive and to thrive. But we all know a fool and his money are soon parted, right? You've heard that. So in the show notes, I'm going to go ahead and post a list of some of my favorite books, some of the ones that I feel like I've learned the most from, have made the biggest impact in my life. I would definitely strongly advise you to go check them out. If you have any questions about them, really if you have any questions about anything, any comments or feedback or whatever, please send me an email. It's jared.kingdommen@gmail.com. That's jared.kingdommen@gmail.com. I want to say thank you for checking out the podcast today. I hope you feel like you got something out of it. If you did, help me out. Go to iTunes, leave the show a good review. I'd really appreciate it. So again, thanks for checking out the show, and we'll see you next time.